Development Hell is a book by What Culture's Michael Cedric detailing the dark early days of WWE's NXT brand, and it's a pretty good warts-and-all recounting of how all that used to be. Development Hell is also something that's hit today's band like a hurricane made of mosquitoes. Limp Bizkit first formed in Jacksonville, Florida in 1994, broke up in 2006, then reformed in 2009 and are still around now. They're supposed to be releasing a new album called Stampede of the Disco Elephants, but at this point Brexit is likely to actually happen before the album is released. Limp Bizkit are known for a high-energy sound, erratic live shows, and tons of behind-the-scenes fights and controversy, and I'm going to tell you which swings hit and which ones miss. Now, let's face the music. We start with the band's debut album, $3 Bill, Y'all. Released in 1997 through Flip and Interscope, it was produced by Ross Robinson. First, background. Lead vocalist Fred Durst got into both the rap and metal scenes in his native Jacksonville. He then took some small jobs before forming some bands. Not long after, Fred got in touch with one of the band's bassists, Sam Rivers, to start a new band with him. Rivers suggested that his cousin John Otto joined the band, and soon Wes Borland joined on guitar as well. Not long after that, they picked their name of Limp Bizkit, which was chosen to purposely put listeners off. The band started getting buzz in underground music scenes in Jacksonville, even to the point where record labels got interested, but most of those wanted Limp Bizkit to change their name. Still, the band grew big, mostly thanks to Fred Durst. He was always finding ways to market and promote the band, such as pretending to be their manager in the hopes of getting them signed and getting in touch with local high schools as well to play there. They then took that a step further by putting their role into their live performances, obviously helped by Wes Borland's unique costume choices and makeup. Anyway, at one point, Korn were opening for a band called Sick of It All. Soon after, Fred was able to persuade Korn's bassist Fieldy to listen to a 3-song demo by Limp Bizkit. Soon after that, Korn took an unsigned Limp Bizkit with them on 2 tours. During that time, they tried getting another guitarist, but Borland was against and decided on something else, that being DJ Lethal, formerly of House of Pain. Borland would soon leave due to creative differences, and he would never leave again after he came back. Anyway, the band opened for Korn, and due to how great those performances were, they were signed to Mojo Records. While driving to record the album, their van crashed, and after the harrowing experiences, Fred and Wes made up, and they became best friends forever. Yay. The band would soon leave Mojo and get signed to Flip, and Fieldy convinced Ross Robinson to listen to the demo. He was doubtful at first, mostly due to the band's aggressive cover of George Michael's Faith, not wanting it on the album at all, despite the success that it would become. And the album itself was a success too, since the band got to tour with bands like Snot and Faith No More, and they even played at Ozfest and Warped Tour, getting into all sorts of trouble along the way. Fred even became the senior vice president of A&R for Interscope, and Flip is a subsidiary of them, so it all works out. As I mentioned, this album is abrasive with echoes of early Korn to it. The structure is mean and punchy, and the tone of it fits the band to a T, and the lyrics cover violence, the music industry, and love. And the band presents it in a surprisingly unique way. Fred's vocals have punch and power to them with sharp delivery and flow, whereas his guitar work is super heavy and thrashy, Sam's bass is deep, heavy and thick, Lethal spins pretty well on the record table, and John's drumming is heavy and hard too. Standout songs include the cover of Faith, Stalemate, Sour, Nobody Loves Me, and my favourite, In Counterfeits. Aggressive, abrasive, and with good production to back it up, $3 Bill, Y'all is chaotic and fun, and I can recommend this one. We then move on to their second album, Significant Other, released in 1999 through Flip and Interscope. Again, this one was produced by Terry Date. This is also their first album to feature guest stars, so let's go over those right quick. Jonathan Davis of Korn and the late great Scott Weiland of Stone Temple Pilots appear on the song Nobody Like You. Wu-Tang's own Method Man appears on End Together Now. Aaron Lee of Sustained appears on the song No Sex. And the 2 hidden skit tracks named Radio Sucks and The Mind of Les, which feature MTV DJ Matt Pinfield and Primus' Les Claypool respectively. Now, onto the background. After the success of their cover of Faith and their touring regimen with big names in nu metal, the band got into the studio pretty soon after their debut. They immediately wanted a different sound, incorporating more elements of hip-hop and some funk as well, and a lot of the album is a bit more serious than their debut too, despite this one being less aggressive in places. You can't say that the new sound didn't work, although there were some things left off this album. A song named Turn Me Loose was recorded with Eminem, but the song isn't on this album, and another song that stayed on the album called Don't Go Off Wondering features System of a Down's Serj Tankian, but his vocals only appear on a demo version of the song and not the actual album version itself. The only other appearance is Wes's brother Scott appearing to play some keyboards on some of the songs too, but that does speak volumes of the band experimenting with their sound. While it's not as aggressive as on their debut, it's still pretty heavy. I wouldn't call it mature by any means, but the band were trying a lot harder, so I can appreciate that. And you can't say that it didn't work. The band got to tour with Korn and Kid Rock and were part of the Family Values tour. And of course, they were part of the controversy at Woodstock 1999, as during their set when they played the song Break Stuff, several fans started going crazier than batshit on brown bread. There were sexual assault reports as well, which the band were criticised for because, well, it was just the thing to do at the time. Despite the success, Limp Bizkit still had an attitude problem, and it does show on this album. but it does benefit them, or it benefited them better at the time. The structure and pacing doesn't let up, hammering hard, and the experimentation using keyboard strings and different guitar styles benefits the album's sound greatly. The lyrics cover the band's own fame, relationship troubles, and media outcry, but the band fire on all fronts too. Fred's vocals have more impact, and his clean singing works well with his rapping and screaming. Wes's guitar riffs are heavy and versatile with good balance. Sam's bass work is deep again and so clean too. Lethal's work is fast and adds a lot of nice layers, and John's drumming is heavy and carries a good drive to everything. Standout songs include Break Stuff, Trust, that is with a question mark by the way, Showing What You Got, Nookie, and my favourite in Nobody Like You. Significant other hits hard, showing more experimenting and a more balanced approach while still keeping the first album's pacing, and I can recommend this one. Pretty good. We then reached their third album, Chocolate Starfish and Hot Dog Flavored Water. Released in 2003, Flip and Interscope, produced by Terry Tate again, it's also the band's longest album with a total of time of 1 hour, 14 minutes and 55 seconds. It also denotes the shortest time between album releases, with barely even a year, and it contains my first Limp Bizkit song, In My Way. And there are also guest appearances on this one too. Scott Weiland appears again on the song Hold On this time, Exhibit appears on Get Your Groove On, DMX, Redman, and Method Man all appear on the song Rollin' Urban Assault Vehicle version, and Ben Stiller, Rob Dyrdek, Stephen Jenkins, and Mark Wahlberg appear on the skit outro. Now, for the background, that took way longer to get to than it should have. The chocolate starfish part of the title refers to, you guessed it, the human butthole, and Fred Durst has been called that by pretty much everyone. Well, asshole, not human butthole. And the hot dog flavoured water does not refer to vaginas, even though a lot of people think that, but it actually comes from a joke that Wes Borland made when the band were at a truck stop. Also, goodness me, did Fred Durst let the ego get the better of him for this one. This album has a mixed response from critics, but I think that's more for the band's attitude than actually being bad. I mean, the thing is certified 6 times platinum in both America and Canada, so it did well for itself. Anyway, back to the controversy. Woo! The band showed up an hour late to a show. They were sponsored by Napster for their summer tour. Then they followed that up with the Guerrilla Tour, where they set up illegally on rooftops and street corners, getting trimmed out by the police at most points. And to add the dumbass cherry onto the dumbass cake, Durst performed one of the album's songs at the MTV Music Awards with Christina Aguilera, claiming to have had sex with her as well. He didn't, but he said he did it first, but that's still not the worst of it. This is gonna get good. During the band's performance at the Big Day Out Festival in Sydney, Australia, they got a mosh pit going, which caused fans to rush the stage. In the ensuing chaos, a teenage girl named Jessica Michalik, I hope I'm saying that right, died due to asphyxiation. There was a court case and Fred claimed that he warned the organisers, but they showed a video where, during the time that Limp Bizkit took to the stage, the crowd level was huge, and he basically ignored that fact. Is that the first time I've heard of someone dying during a show? I think it might be. Breaking new ground on Backtracking. Anyway, this album sound is typical Limp Bizkit, still experimental style bands and fun, and once again nothing new in terms of its terrible tone, but it's somehow more insulting as the band just stops slinging insults at other bands too. The lyrics cover fame, celebrity status, and living life, and the band is still pretty good despite what I said earlier. Fred has good delivery and a more rap-focused feel, which actually works. Wes's guitar work is good riffs, but it's his lighter playing that stands out. Sam's bass is more pronounced with good riffs and tone. Lethal has more layers with his work, combining effortlessly well with the others, and John's drumming is groovy and heavy too. Standard songs include Rollin' Air Raid Vehicle version, The One, My Way, Take a Look Around, and my favourite, In My Generation. Chalk Dog, which actually sounds like a delicious treat, is a good album that deserves its praise, and despite the band's reputation at the time, it's produced well and still fun to listen to, so yeah, I can recommend it. We then reached their fourth album, Results May Vary, released in 2003 through Flip and Interscope. It was produced by Terry Tate alongside Fred Durst and Rick Rubin, and it's their first album without Wes Borland, with Mike Smith of Snot sort of taking his place. I'll get more to that later. We also have 2 guest stars for this one, as Brian Head Welch of Korn appears on the song Build a Bridge, and Snoop Dogg appears on the song Red Light Green Light. It's also the last album before their first breakup in 2006. Now for the background, where I'll do that thing where I talk about some of the good stuff first. Wes Borland left pretty amicably in 2001, and soon after Limp Bizkit held auditions for a new guitarist, which was once again sort of Mike Smith from Snot. They had recording sessions with him, and he is credited on this album, but Fred wound up playing guitar mostly even before Mike turned up, and Sam Rivers did some guitar work too, and most of the sessions with Mike were scrapped after falling out. Basically, Mike Smith from Snot, thank you for turning up and actually giving the band a positive vibe, but please leave now, we don't need you anymore. At least they still credited him, so it's not all bad. This album also initially had 2 different working titles in Bipolar and Panty Sniffer. I'm really glad that they didn't choose either of those, I'll be honest. Anyway, Results May Vary is more experimental, once again adding some other elements, and it's more serious in terms of its lyrical content, with some of the material being inspired by Fred Durst's alleged affair with Britney Spears. I don't know why I did alleged like that. Also, Rivers Cuomo of Weezer, Page Hamilton of Helmet, and Al Jorgensen of Ministry did some bits of work for guitar as well. None of their stuff actually made the album, nor were they credited, so, good to see that Fred Durst's ego is still persistent, even to the point where the album cover is just a close-up of his face screaming at the viewer with a green tint covering it. The only touring-related thing that I have to say is that they were part of the Summer Sanitarium tour with Metallica, including a show where Limp Bizkit were lambasted by the crowd to the point of Fred yelling back at them. That does give me more room to talk about the album, which is good, because this album is bad. It's really, really bad. None of the experimentation works, and it's all too much it wants to try, and it takes itself way too seriously. But like previous stuff where the band was sort of self-aware, they're trying to force a maturity into this one. And sweet Jesus kick-flipping, bonk-smoking, fuck-mothering Christ is this album boring. The structure's weak, with the experimentation not covering any of the flaws, and of which there are many with this tone, production, and pacing. And the lyrics going over bullying and love and such just don't work, and the messages are poorly delivered, and they're poorly hammered in and badly drawn out. But how does the band do? I'll fucking tell you. I'll admit, Fred's vocals are more versatile, but he just sounds bored and phones in a lot of his performance. Same for his guitar playing, sounds bass is buried under the overbearing production. Lethal's DJ work has some good moments, and he maybe puts in the best performance here. John's drumming is heavy too, and he does well with his time, but once again, it doesn't feel like much. Standout songs include Eat You Alive, Build a Bridge, Head for the Barricade, The Only One, and my favourite in the closing track, Drown. The results for my favourite drags on for too long, is overproduced and repetitive, and has a shite album cover, and it just feels insincere. I just cannot think of any good reasons to recommend this album. It's imbalanced, mismanaged, and disingenuous, so yeah, try to avoid this one if you can. And finally, we reach their fifth album, Gold Cobra. Released in 2011, it would be the band's last through Flip and Interscope, and it was produced solely by Fred Durst, and it's the band's shortest album of 49 minutes and 37 seconds. It's the band's first album after the breakup in 2006, their first with the original lineup since 2000, and it was my first Limp Bizkit album from start to end. Now, the background. After the release of Results May Vary, the band recorded an EP titled The Unquestionable Truth Part 1 in 2004, with Wes Borland playing guitar on that, but John Otto left and was replaced by Sammy Siegler, who has done work for bands like Glassjaw and Rival Schools, just to name a couple. Limp Bizkit followed that up with a Greatest Hits album titled Greatest Hits with a Z in 2005, then split the following year. Borland doubted a sequel to the EP, and in 2009 the band reformed with John Otto and the rest returning, signed the Comeback Unicorns and Rainbows tour in that same year. Blaze... what? Sorry, that was something else unrelated. The album title doesn't have much meaning besides the band wanting it to fit the style of music in the album, and there was a spoken word intro by Gene Simmons of Kiss planned for it, but it was left off. There was also a non-album song titled Combat Jazz, which features rapper Raekwon, which I think was planned for the original album, but became a Japanese bonus release instead. That does technically make Gold Cobra the first album since the band's debut to not feature any guest vocals, not including bonus tracks, which I don't include. Loopholes are just the best, aren't they? Anyway, my inner bias is about to come out, but I really like this album. Yes, it was my first one by them, and it was their first after almost a decade, but it actually tries new stuff. One thing I like is that it's more guitar-guided, and while I'll talk more about that later in the performances, I do like that the style is a bit different. Everyone gets a more even chance to shine, and while it is a throwback to the sound of the first two albums, it's also a bit different from those as well. Maybe it's a result of Fred's production, like him doing that on his own, but I like that everyone feels like an individual here. It's not to the extent of bands like Converge, Every Time I Die While She Sleeps, but the effort is there and I appreciate it. The structure is a lot steadier and heavier too, with a lot of nice elements and experimentation executed brilliantly, and the lyrics cover fame, love, status, and violence, bringing a mixed bag with those as well. And the band do some damn fine work, I must say. Fred's vocals are more versatile again, with screaming, singing, and rapping all balanced well. Wes's guitar work is solid with awesome riffs and even some good solos. Let him do more solos, please, Limp Bizkit. Sam's bass work is deep, heavy, and thick. Lethal's beats carry a good weight and punch to the album. John's drumming is heavy, harsh, and sharp. Standout songs include Shotgun, Auto-Tunage, Douchebag, Loser, my favourite, and the title track. Experimental, produced well, and mercifully cut short while still fun. Gold Cobra packs a mean brash wallop, and I can recommend it. So, let's round them up. I'd have to say my favourite is maybe Significant Other. It shows a lot of their debut and hints of their future work, and it's consistent and easy to listen to. Least favourite is Results May Vary. Shocker, right? But the album is just braggadocious, forgettable, and it takes itself way too seriously. I just don't like it. But hey, as always with the series, I keep rolling. What? Anyway, next time I'll cover Chicago, Illinois' own Medina Lake, and as always, thank you for watching. You're awesome. Bye. Bye. Bye.